Is the system working? Yep. There we go. Okay. Well, hello everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us here. Quite a turnout. I'm impressed. And I see we have a serious meeting happening, and that's much appreciated. I see a councillor or two. Thanks for coming. I see Marty there. I also saw our Conservative candidate in this month's election attending, Amelia Volpe. Amelia has shown her interest in our Garnet Valley issues by actually going there and meeting some of our folks. And that's much appreciated. So why are we all here? Let me tell you, a gravel pit has been licensed by the provincial government against the wishes of the entire community of Summerland. It has zero support from anyone, yet it's happening.
We've got a whole bunch more people here. Excuse me.
Let them all come in. They can stand. We have extra chairs. We'll just hold off for a minute and let everybody grab a chair. The property and business owners in Garnet Valley and the Summerland community in general is nothing short of disgraceful. And we've been completely railroaded by the BC government, and in particular, the Ministry of Mines. So I'd like to introduce the people at the table. My name is Steve Lorney. My wife and I are owners of Okanagan Crush Pad Winery in Summerland and Garnet Valley Ranch Winery that we built up in Garnet Valley. We have next to me Blair Parker, who is going to say a few words regarding wildlife issues. Scott Hazelton beside me, who will say a little bit about his issues with his accommodation and the effect that this gravel pit is going to have on his client base. Thomas Tumback, Locomotive Organic Farms, he's going to say a few words. So again, thank you everybody for coming, and I'll get back to giving you an update of where we're at. Over 300 letters of opposition and not one site visit or inspection or consultation from anyone from the Ministry of Mines. Just a very clear message from the government to basically go pound sand. And I hope you remember that on October 19th. So I'll give you a list of what we see as objections that were basically dismissed out of hand. Consider how dangerous Garnet Valley Road is going to be with 30 or 40 dump trucks ripping up and down every day. It's only 20 feet wide in many places. It has horse riders, cyclists, joggers, kids on bikes, pedestrians, all going to be at risk. And how about those of us who own property on Garnet Valley or on Jones Flat Road, who stand to lose literally tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost property value? And think about the 6 homeowners who live just below this proposed gravel pit site. And they've already experienced mudslides from that site. Or for example, the Tumback family with their farming operation. Their home and farm is less than 100 yards from this proposed gravel pit. For others, say Summerlanders who may not live in Garnet Valley, think of the likely destruction of our recently rebuilt Garnet Valley Road. Do you remember what it was like before? It'll be like that again, I can assure you. Or worse. And just think what that would add to your annual property tax bill. Or think of the economic damage to yourself, your friends, your neighbors, such as the nearby Solvera Winery and others, whose business and jobs depend on growing our agritourism operations. The senior inspector for permitting told us, and you're not going to believe this, in writing, nonetheless, that property values go up when you're situated next to a gravel pit. Seriously, that's what she wrote. We have it in writing. People here have seen it.
Are they Trump supporters?
So, right here in this dismissive letter to us that came just a couple of months ago, long after they knew that there were over 300 letters of concern or opposition, whatever you want to call it. And there's also this disruption to wildlife in a valley that so far has no heavy industrial activities. So one of the driving forces attempting to halt this destructive proposal is your Summerland District Council. They are unanimous in their opposition, and we want to thank every one of them. In their home. Deputy Mayor Trainer, Councilors Richard Barkwell, Janet Peake, Adrian Betts, Marty Van Alphen, and Doug Patton. They're doing a very, very good job of representing all of you on this issue. So the BC Wildlife Federation opposes it, as does the Penticton Indian Band, Summerland Chamber of Commerce, and our group, the Garnet Valley Agritourism Association. So tonight, we're going to break this meeting into 3 parts. Firstly, we'll have a few Summerlanders talk specifically about their reasons to say no to a Garnet Valley gravel pit. Secondly, I will run through what we see as our limited options, and they are limited. And then last of all, we'll give you, in the audience, a chance to ask any questions, give us your thoughts, and maybe some ideas going forward. So let's start off with Blair Parker, Summerland Sportsmen's Association, sitting right beside me. He'll bring us up to speed on why this pit is problematic for our regional wildlife. And we're going to keep these short because there's got to be a Q&A period at the end of this, what we're speaking to here. And we want to give you and the audience plenty of time to give us your thoughts and questions. Blair?
Thank you. As Steve said, my name is Blair Parker, and I'm the Vice President of the Summerland Sportsmen Association. Garnet Valley is a critical area for mule deer, both for wintering and spring fawn rearing. And we have been stewards of this for many years. We spearheaded the deer fence along the highway, bringing all stakeholders and financing together, including managing the project start to finish. We were responsible for closing off illegal trails in the valley, as well as advocating for the winter motor vehicle closures. We have countless volunteer hours into brushing and clearing to maintain the habitat that the deer need to survive. We also included the Penticton Indian Band in that process to make sure that their values and traditions were respected. The club has also been heavily involved in the Southern Interior Mule Deer Research Project, both in volunteer hours and monetarily. Total cost to date of that project is north of $1.5 million. And that is without counting the volunteer hours. The research was done by Dr. Chloe Wright and clearly shows how important Garnet Valley is to the mule deer survivability and long-term sustainability. We've even gone as far as to buy and donate cellular trail cameras to the Conservation Office so that they can monitor those closed roads in the wintertime. The mule deer are a critical part of the natural cycle in the province, and we need to do everything we can to protect beautiful British Columbia's wildlife for future generations to enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Blair. Now, Thomas Comeback from Locomotive Farms Organic Vegetables, within 100 yards of this proposed pit. Thomas?
Hi, thanks everybody for coming out. It's really nice to see everybody here. I wish it wasn't for this reason, but obviously we have a very strong community, and we really appreciate your support. So we started our farm in Garnet Valley about 10 years ago. We grow organic ground crops on our property. It's a 5-acre farm. Also up on Steve's property, we lease 7 acres. And the reason why we chose to move there is because it's so beautiful. It's so peaceful. And we wouldn't have chosen to live there if there was a big, ugly gravel pit, obviously. But not only for the peace and tranquility, but when you're growing vegetables and things like salads or beautiful herbs, medicinal herbs for tea or any sort of use, there's a lot of things we grow that can't be covered in dust and whatever is being blown out by the gravel pit. So that's a big effect on our operation. There's certain things you can't wash, you know. There's things we don't want to wash. So it's definitely going to affect our production. But more importantly, we're situated below the gravel pit. And when I say below, there's a hill right behind our home, and the hill is very steep. We've experienced a mudslide from that property due to a natural water course. And as you all know now, we're all very well educated at what happens when you remove all the trees and shrubs and topsoil around a slope. When there's precipitation, that is going to give way. The roots of the trees, the shrubs, the bushes, everything on that hillside is holding that soil. And so anything could happen if there's a lot of water that comes down, either in a rainfall or a snow melt. All these things we can't anticipate. And we're directly below the site. Not only below the site, but also below the access road. The access road is so steep that the property owners haven't been able to proceed with building anything on their property because fire trucks can't access the site. It's so steep. I mean, I don't know the exact slope, but it looks like this. And before the neighbors got nasty, they would let our kids slide on it. That's how steep it is. In the winter, we could run our toboggans on it. It was very fast and very, very effective as a slide. So directly behind our home, within a stone's throw, a literal stone's throw, there's a very dangerous access road. And then there's also a dangerous series of slopes. And we're in fear for the people living on the property. And there's 14 people, 10 of which are children. And the fact that we were not even approached about this project is appalling. So the process for applying for a permit requires to consult with your neighbors. The only consultation that was done was an ad in the Summerland Review, December 16th, before everybody went for vacations. And they had a window of about 6 or so weeks where you could provide feedback on the proposed activities. Of course, hardly anybody noticed it. We were so lucky that one Summerlander read this little 2x2 inch entry in the Summerland Review and pointed out something was going on. And thankfully our neighbors and people that are on the ball put the red flag up, and we started writing letters. 300 plus letters from concerned citizens in our area, and we didn't even receive a response to our letters. I didn't receive a response to my letter. I'm the direct neighbor. And when they approved the mine, I wasn't even notified. It took a neighbor to email me to tell me the mine had been approved. So this is the kind of process we're dealing with here. It's very top down. It is completely appalling that we weren't consulted. And this is how we're feeling, is that this is being shoved down our throats as here. This is how the system works. Mines have control. We don't answer to anybody. And the only thing you can do to stop us is a court injunction. That's what we were told. So we're upset. We're very upset. This is not democracy. This is dictatorship. And we're not going to tolerate it. We're good citizens. We all pay our taxes. We try to maintain a beautiful valley. And this isn't going to go. We're not going to stand for this. And I appreciate everybody's support here. We're going to fight this thing, and we're going to need to stand united about this thing. We're going to need everybody to support each other through this battle. Thank you.
Thomas, you got a lot at risk. No wonder you're upset about it. So I'd like us to hear a little bit from Scott Hazelton. He's our neighbor up at Garnet, and he's got Great Escapes Bed and Breakfast, or Guest Cottage, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, you said just about everything everybody's thinking. I don't know about upset. I think I'd use other words. I don't think people are here because they're happy. I think people are pretty pissed off. So we rent an Airbnb that looks directly into where the pit's going to be. My front window of my house looks directly into their pit. And there's many other businesses in Garnet Valley that are going to be affected in one way or the other. We're not just special. There's mushroom farmers, there's horseback riders, there's all kinds of things. And we just really want to protect that valley and the beauty and the reason we live there. So Thomas said pretty much everything I wanted to, so.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And I believe Don Gemmel from the Trail of the Okanogans is somewhere in the audience, and I think there he is. Don, would you care to come and say a couple of words about what your team is planning and what you'd like to do in Garnet Valley and how important it is?
Thanks, Steve. Congratulations for putting this all together, you guys. I'm with a group called the Trail of the Okanogans, and I ride a bike along with a lot of other people, and your new Garnet Valley Road has become a mecca for recreation cyclists. That road is just amazing. Anybody that lives out there can count, cyclists every 100 yards or 300 yards along that route. But the Trail of the Okanogans is about something bigger. It's an economic development project. It's about building a cycling path between the bridge in Kelowna all the way to Asuyas. And we've mapped a route that includes Peachland through the Fur Brigade Trail and Garnet Valley through the Summerland. Now, if you want to see the evidence of our mapping, if you went to the parking lot at Garnet Lake, you'll see right there's 4x4 posts that we plugged in there, and this is 8.0. And every 500 meters along the Fur Brigade Trail to Hardy Falls is another one of those 4x4 posts. That means that from that point at Garnet parking lot to Hardy Falls, it's 8 kilometers. I've ridden it, I've snowshoed it, and I've walked it. But cyclists tell me that Garnet Valley is one of the best rides in the Okanagan. And it really is by far one of the best rides. And we did have a great ride this past Sunday to make people aware of what we could lose for this. But I mentioned this is an economic development project. And when we connect up a path between the Bennett Bridge and Asuyas, that's going to be connected with a bike path that runs from the Bennett Bridge all the way to Vernon. And another group are building a path from Vernon to Armstrong. And another group right now is building a path between Sycamoose and Armstrong. And when we connect up all of these pathways, it's going to be worth approximately $50 million in new economic activity for the Okanagan. So that includes the money that flows out into the little businesses and to wages here in every community that's part of this trail. So that's why it's important for us that we preserve that future for Garnet Valley as part of our route. But the other day, I was up on Garnet Valley Road, my bike, and one of those big aero industry ore haulers went through there. Now, if you've noticed that the gravel that's coming out of the pits here in Summerland, they're dump trucks with a pop. Well, those aero industry haulers are much bigger than any old dump truck. So that's the way they go. It's just not one dump truck. Okay, it's a heavy load that's going to run down that road and it's going to crush it. Okay, so like Steve says, you're going to end up with what you had before. So it's really important that it's just not the people in Garnet Valley, it's people in Summerland that should get behind this protest. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. That's a pretty exciting project. We'd love to see it become real, do some of that. Lastly, I'd like Bob Sarter from Solero Winery to tell us what his family's done up at Garnet Valley. Bob?
Thanks very much, and thank you for allowing me to talk today. The first time I went the length of Garnet Valley was 2014. And what I witnessed was a very unique ecosystem. It was beautiful. And we decided we were going to make that home. So we built a winery. As Steve knows, building wineries is not cheap. One of the interesting things I've done in the tasting room is whenever somebody comes in, I ask them, have you ever been through this valley before? Some say yes. Many have said no. And when I say, so what do you think about it? The terms they always use are hidden gem, serene, calm. It feels relaxing. Juxtapose that with an open pit mine. I mean, it's incongruous. It's actually alien to that ecosystem. The other thing I would say is, I've always believed in individual rights. But the individual right of a company or people 3 provinces away should not trump the collective rights of a community.
Here, here.
Thank you, Bob. That was exactly our feelings when we purchased the old Dietz property on Garnet Valley Road. And Bob's right about the amount of money it takes to get a winery operation up and running. It's a good thing 40 years in the construction business. Because, yeah, it's an expensive item. So, just to give you all a sense of what's at stake, our members in the Garnet Valley Agritourism Association have already invested, I mean, literally tens of millions in vineyards, wineries, bed and breakfast accommodations, horse riding stables, locomotive organic vegetable farms, what the fungus operation, cattle, chicken, berry, egg, hay operations, and more. And all are under some level of threat at this moment. So, let me just, we seem to have gone blank here for a second or two. Thanks, Blair. So now comes the second part of our meeting. What can we do about it? What are our options? What's out there for us? So there are a few of them. Let's start off with, how about doing nothing? The owners of the pit might come to their senses and see that there's no way to make money in a very competitive industry. They may notice how much opposition there is and back off. Well, after seeing how much opposition there is, they still seem to be pushing ahead. So there's really no way we should just pull the bed sheets over our head and hope everything will be all right. We cannot and will not take that chance. There's just far too much at stake. So how about the political route? Pushing our MLA, Minister of Mines, to rescind this permit. We do have an election coming up, and I know one candidate who has done a very good job of listening to us, to the point that she has visited a number of owners in Garnet Valley and is attending tonight's meeting. But however, a new MLA may advocate and push on our behalf, but we cannot be certain of success. So we do have to cover our bases. We have one other option, which we have really just begun to explore, and that is going the legal route. And somebody has pointed that out before. We've not yet done enough homework, and we're still waiting for our Freedom of Information requests to be fulfilled. But the paperwork we have gotten to date shows some shocking evidence of an actual dereliction of duty on behalf of the Mines Ministry. We think that the ministry's closet is full of skeletons, and we want to shine daylight on that process that allowed for this clearly faulty permit to be approved. This legal challenge will likely be a judicial review, and the hurdles ahead for us are, number one, timing. Judicial process crawls along at a snail's pace, so it could take quite a while. Number two, no guarantee of success, regardless of the time and effort and energy that we put into it. Number three, it doesn't come cheap, it's expensive. But on the positive side, we will know very early in the game just how powerful our evidence will be of this suspected incompetence, indifference, carelessness, and I guess plain willfulness on behalf of the ministry. We have examples of outright falsehoods in the ministry letterhead, on ministry letterhead, such as property values appreciate next door to a gravel pit. Where did that come from? Two, we have many motivated supporters, and you can just look around the room and see that. And these supporters will take a serious haircut on their property values if this thing goes ahead. So there's a huge incentive for all of you to help fund this legal battle if we go that route and see it through to a successful conclusion. Number three, the District of Summerland and Picton Indian Band are on our side. We will talk to council, city council, district council, about some cost sharing in our legal fight, as the district stands to suffer.
Too
Ronald's
close.
telling me.
Too close. You're getting feedback.
Getting feedback. Okay. Well, I'll also talk a little bit louder. How's that?
Perfect.
So, the district also stands to suffer millions of dollars in road and infrastructure damage if this thing goes ahead. So there's a very good reason that they're on our side. Number four, the ministry, neither the ministry nor the politicians will be happy about getting into a very public fight with hundreds of angry and determined and well-organized Summerland residents. And this just may be, sorry Lionel, this may be just what it takes to have someone listen to us. So if we choose to go the legal route, and we see a reasonable chance of success, we will need cash, and a fair bit of it. And we have set up a Garnet Valley GoFundMe account, which should go live today or tomorrow. It's already got its first few donations. And when we hit $10,000, I will add another 1,000, and the same thing for 20, 30, 40, and 50,000. And if we can get all of our Garnet Valley residents to support us, and we have a goal of raising, say, $50,000 for this fight, then we are on our way. We may not need anywhere near that amount of money, but if we take it to the bitter end, we may be looking at something close to that. And anything left over after we win this fight will go back to those that donated it in the first place. So, that is something to think about. So, if we do set up a fund for a legal fight, I suggest that every owner whose property values are going to be substantially negatively affected by what's proposed, consider supporting us and in this fight. And we've done some research, and it's like throwing a rock in the pond. You get a ripple. If you're right next door, it's up to about a 40% reduction in the value of the property you own. And that ripple extends out so that a mile or two away, you're still suffering a 10 to 15% drop in the value of your property. So this is a serious fight, and it will need some, serious funding to take it to where we want it to go. So I don't want to pretend that it's going to be easy or it's going to be cheap. But if we don't fight this, and Garnet Valley Road has 30 to 40 gravel trucks a day roaring up and down, you will be losing a substantial amount of your investment in your property. That's a fact. Now there is one other option that I will put out there. We don't hold much hope for it, and that is to put together a group that will buy the property. The problem is that the owners have generally gone to ground. They don't answer texts, emails, phone calls from many of us. So we really have no idea what their mindset is, whether they are willing to discuss any of these alternate solutions. So no sign of wanting to talk, so we cannot count on that particular option. So the biggest driving force and the organization behind this fight is our Garnet Valley Agritourism Association. And we're businesses that rely on agriculture and tourism to survive. Solvera Winery, Wild Horse Mountain Stables, Locomotive Organics, Garnet Valley Ranch Winery, Grape Escapes Guest Cottage, What the Fungus, Campbell Creek Farms. We are the organizers of this town hall meeting because we will suffer the most if this thing goes ahead. So, questions. We're on the third part of our meeting tonight, a Q&A period. But we do have a big crowd here, so I will be keeping the questions short and the answers short. But we do have hands up already, and I see Mayor Holtz here. I want to thank you for coming. And any other councillors that have come, but we haven't been able to. Oh, Janet is here. Thank you for coming, Janet. So we have a hand up back there in front of the painting.
Thank you. My name's Murray Roney. I live on Gallagher Street, which is just off of Garnet Valley Road. I worked in government for 35 years, and you don't necessarily have to go to the extent of a court case. If you can demonstrate that the department hasn't fulfilled their legal obligations in a complete and thorough manner, then they can be made to do it over again. And that can at least stop it for a period of time. So I would heartily recommend that there be an investigation, and you've already identified that there were some discrepancies in that. And if that's brought to the attention of the ombudsperson, then that would at least make them go back to start over again. Secondly, there's nothing quite like a good picket line to stop people from benefit from using the gravel pit. You can have a situation where if a gravel truck company uses that gravel pit, then we won't buy from that gravel truck company. So you can make it difficult for those who stand to gain from the gravel pit. And that is the kind of thing, direct action, that can be taken by the citizens. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Yeah.
My name's Mary Ellen Laidlaw, and 7 years ago, I get emotional, I'm very old. We moved, and we took a long time. We lived in Lake Country, and we had 44 acres, and we wanted to downsize, and we moved, and we chose Garnet Valley. I am getting emotional. We chose it because it was beautiful. I have horses, I'm old, I fall off horses. I don't want a fracking truck going by, and those people get paid by the amount of loads they get down there. So we're looking at a very dangerous situation. We live right, I mean, it's narrow. When we come out of our driveway, we have to be very careful. These stupid trucks are going to come around those corners, and they're not doing 50 kilometers. You know, even the trucks that are on there aren't doing 50 kilometers. And, you know, I have a very good horse, and I stand out in the middle of the road. I know it's really stupid, but I do it, and most of them stop. One guy I could have touched his truck. And it's so lethally dangerous, and we're only one blind corner. There's blind corners all up that road, and narrow. Like,
Yes.
it's narrow.
Once you hit Wild Horse Road, the bike lane stopped. We've measured it. It's 20 feet wide from the toe of the hill on one side to the drop off on the other. And a legal width for a gravel truck is 8 foot 6 inches. Now, if you put two of them together, that's 17 feet. You gotta allow for mirrors on both sides. There is zero room for anybody walking, biking, riding a horse when two trucks pass. So we totally understand the safety risk to what you're talking about, and we appreciate you bringing that up again.
The
Thank you.
question I also just wanted
Go
to
ahead.
ask is, the people, or the company that owns the land, could you send us all their names? I believe in writing letters.
It was in the documents.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry, I didn't get it.
we also have to be a little bit cautious about how aggressive we are with the individuals that are promoting that as a gravel pit. Our fight is as much with the regulatory authorities that we believe didn't do their job. Simple as that. That's who the big fight is with. Yeah. Okay, at the back there.
Are you able to share your microphone with the people that are talking? Because everybody in the
Okay.
back and in the other room can't hear.
If you want to come up, that might make sense. We don't have a second mic, unfortunately.
Just an update on the Freedom of Information request. I filed it about 3 weeks ago.
You have to hold it right.
Okay.
There you go.
I filed the FOI 3 weeks ago. For the Ministry of Mines, they've gotten back to me, and they're saying right now that they will have nothing to me until November 1st. They have 30 business days, so they say. I've also filed an FOI with Summerland and with RDOS, because apparently, as has been stated already, there's been some issues and some problems with the initial application. Now, RDOS, I was talking to them today, and they don't have any recollection of any approachment from the ministry, as the ministry has stated happened. I was actually talking to Dallas Close this morning, and Summerland seems to be not aware of any documentation that came from the ministry. So there is a lot of discrepancy. So November 1st is the first deadline that they've given me. I've managed to put together most of the document, most of the application document, but I am in desperate need of page 6. Does anyone have page 6? Or the whole document? I have every other page, but not page 6. Oddly enough, page 6 is the one to do with Indigenous engagement.
I don't think there is one.
Sorry?
I don't think there is a page 6.
Well, that's what I was sort of wondering.
The whole book from the library.
Yeah, and of course, the library destroyed the only copy that we had available to us at the end of February when the time period was up. And also, that was available online, but that was taken offline from my understanding at the same time. So we have no access to the documents. In talking with the Nicole Jones, the permitting officer, she said, well, if you want that information, I'm sorry, we don't normally give that to the public. You have to file an FOI request, which is what I've done. So, we're kind of fighting with one hand tied behind our back. So if anyone has a full copy of the document, of the original application, and especially page 6, that would sure be helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we can tell you all about the Indigenous engagement component. We've issued press releases, we've rejected the project on numerous occasions with multiple on-the-record letters. We receive about 6,500 of these referrals each year, so that's several hundred a week. And by my reckoning, there's 5 different processes that need to happen to move this forward, and they need to happen concurrently. The first is the ESA. So they'll be required to do an environmental site assessment and impact assessment. That might not stop it, but it will leverage the positioning that we're all looking for, and that position is one of rejection, as you know. The second is the Heritage Conservation Act. The HCA trumps the MIND Act, and that's associated with archaeology and cultural heritage. Now, we don't know if there's archaeology out there. We know this is a very important cultural area. They will be required to do an archaeological impact assessment, and perhaps it will reveal some level of archaeology. That's 2. Number 3 is certainly the Penticton Indian Band. This is, as I mentioned, a very important place for PID. It's unceded, unsurrendered territory. It's part of the commonage claim. It's some of the most critical ungulate habitat in the South Okanagan. It's a home to species at risk. So PIB will and is working on it and interested in leveraging its political capital in terms of DRIPA and UNDRIP and title and rights to overturn the permit. That's 3. Number 4, and perhaps many of you would be willing, is something PIB does very well, is on the land action. So protesting, information checkpoints, you can't have roadblocks, and actions like that. So we have a contingent at the community who's ready and waiting. They've got their drums in hand and they want to move forward, but we have to be strategic about how that works. There needs to be a properly developed media campaign. It's not about just going out and doing it. You've got to set the stage, you've got to get the information out to the public, and you have to time it right, and it has to be sustained. So hopefully collaboratively we can put something like that together. And then the 5th one is, of course, legal. And as you mentioned, legal is expensive. It's time consuming, but it can be effective. And I think when we gather the information we need, you already have a good case. We'll get some more from the environmental impact assessment. We'll get additional layers from the cultural assessment. Those will feed into the legal process. And Chief and Council, we met with Summerland today to start talking about that process as well, to see if that's a worthwhile path that we will all go down together. So PIB is with you. PIB is interested in preventing this, and won't stop until it's overturned. So thank you.
Thank you for those words of encouragement and support. James? Over in the yellow.
I think that's me.
Not you.
My name is John Bilodeau, and we started a grassroots organization across the lake to protect the Naramata bench. We've been working with PIB and lots of different people, and I just wanted to know a couple things. We're also behind you guys. It's not just, it can't be just a small community effort, no offense, but I would think that people in Peachland, Penticton, Naramata would be behind this initiative. I would caution you on getting too much positive information from people who are looking to get elected as opposed to people who are elected. We had somebody, a politician, try and infiltrate our group so they could report back to the developers that were trying to develop that land and then brag about it later on social media. One of the things that we did that was very successful is we had a tractor rally, which we organized. We had 50, 60 tractors, and it's loud and colorful, and it's great TV coverage. Media would love that kind of stuff. So that would be one thing I would suggest you do. We did that a few years ago, and people are still talking about it. So we're still fighting our fight. It takes a long time. We've been at it for 3 years. I hope it doesn't take that long for you guys. We don't have the council behind us. You do. Good luck. We're behind you.
Thank you, all right. My name is Jörg Schwarb. I want to only tell you about the fire situation. I heard nothing about the fire situation. We had a few times in the last 20 years, 2 times we had to bring all our animals out of the Garnet Valley. And what will happen when the trucks are along the road? We had to bring trailers, trucks and trailers in to bring out the horses, and the trucks are running. But I'm pretty sure the fire chief will tell you that this will only happen on a weekend. There are no fire, no gravel trucks on the road. But perhaps the weekend is a little bit shorter than the whole week. That's all what I want to say.
Stars Piglet Sanctuary, and I'm just at the beginning of Garnet Valley, when you come off Jones Flat Road. So it is going to be hard for us because I have lots of farm animals there, and some of them do like to escape. They haven't gone very far yet. They haven't gone very far. What I mean, with all those trucks going back and forth, they're not going to stop, okay? They're just going to think, whatever, right?
Right.
And the noise is good, because I have a 600-pound pig, and he doesn't like the sound of big trucks.
Garnet Valley, end of Garnet Valley Road, right? Vivian.
Thank you. I was just concerned about our bus stop as well. We have children in that valley, and it's over a half mile from my place to that bus stop below your place. I'm sorry? I can't yell very loud.
Do your best, Mom.
But anyways, I was just wondering how that would be affected as well. Children can't be on that road. There's no way, no flipping way they can be on that road with those trucks going up and down.
That is one of our big concerns, and we've made that very clear.
And our school district will not make it so that the bus comes closer to those kids. It used to turn right around at the bottom of my driveway, and I've been there for 34 years now, and now he has to go to down by your place. This does not make sense to me, and it does make less sense that those bloody big trucks are going to be on there too. And I also have a little grandchild that is a little bit disabled, and that is the other part. That's all I have to say. I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
This is in the corp limits. Why can't the corporation stop this? They won't allow, like Mr. Van Linda's over here said something about the house being built. Well, you know what? We get so many restrictions about when and how we can build our houses. Why can't they lay out some restrictions for that floodplain? You know, they're not doing enough as far as I'm concerned to prevent it. This is our corporation. We pay the taxes. They're not doing anything. That's it.
You know what, I'm gonna go to bat for the district. The district has made it very clear, unanimous, every council member has said thumbs down to this development. They've been meeting with the Ministry of Mines, they've been meeting with other groups that are against it, and they are in our camp. So, and I thank them for that. We all thank them for that. John?
Yeah, thank you. I just have a question. How is it actually possible that a mine can get permitted if the land is not zoned for that? And I don't know if that area is zoned for to have a mine in it.
Apparently it's not.
So if it's not zoned for that, how can a permit be granted?
I believe Mayor Holmes has words to say when it comes to what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do.
I can answer that question. Do you want me to come up?
Yes, please.
So the Mine Act trumps all municipal zoning. Just like the ALR trumps or anything. You can, if you're in the ALR, you can basically do what you want for the Farm Act. So we, as Steve has mentioned, we met with the Minister of Mines last 2 weeks ago now, and she's now the election is, so it's just before the election. She was sympathetic, but basically said that, you know, her hands were tied, that she couldn't interfere politically. But we did set up a meeting which was held last week with senior staff, and we met with that staff, and everything's, we've raised all the issues, and basically what it comes down to is there's a flaw in the process, and one of them is they have guidelines. There's 6 guidelines, and as far as I can tell, they only followed one of those of the 6, and one of them was if there's a conflict, that you consult with, you work it out with the local government. So they didn't do that. We didn't hear about it until after most of you. They didn't even send us a notification. So we asked them, well, why? How do you not follow your guidelines? And they say, well, they leave it at the discretion of the permitting officer. And so, okay, but maybe you should give some direction to the permitting officer of when you might follow the guidelines and when you won't. And for when you work with local government, I told them it should be automatic. If it doesn't conform to the zoning, you ought to work it out with the local government. You have to assume that there's going to be a problem if it doesn't conform to the zoning. Because for local government, zoning is everything. That's how we organize the community. That's how we decide what should go where. And it doesn't conform to the zoning. So that was the other thing. The other thing is in their guidelines, they say they can, in terms of public consultation, they can have a public information session beforehand. And they never did that, of course. And we asked them why not. And they said, well, they usually only do it on projects which they know are going to be controversial. So it's like one thing after another. And really, you know, the problem is that the process is set up so they just look at the property itself. They don't look at the off-site impacts of what that development is going to happen, to what's going to happen all around it. And
So it seems like nobody, who's responsible for the offsite impacts? Part of it is us, the municipality, but when your rules trump our bylaws, you're taking that responsibility away from us. You're making us powerless. So that's part of the problem, and the process itself is flawed, and that needs to be addressed. And I don't know if I answered that question or not.
But can you answer another one? What tools does the district have in their toolbox, if any?
So we're exploring all our options. I don't really want to talk about them in a public meeting. But you know, if this is amazing, this is really important. If we're going to stop this thing, we need this kind of community support, sustained community support, and whatever you guys decide to do on your own, without being led, you know, being initiated by the district, that's good. That's good, because it's not, you know, there's going to court and trying to get this overturned, but we need to be aware of counter lawsuits as well. Right? So that's something. But if you can agree that, you know, like the groups up here is who the district should be working with, I mean, that if there are a few point people that we could work with, that'd be great. Well, the district owns the road. The repaving project was I believe was a one-third provincial federal.
So why are we not looking at putting a weight restriction on that road for this kind of business?
And the speed limit.
So,
And the toll road.
yeah, right.
Do we know what they're mining for?
Thanks, Doug. And I think I would say that Doug has dispelled any thoughts of the district not supporting us in this fight. Thank you very much. Yes.
I have a question. You had mentioned a few minutes ago, whoever bought this property, did I hear you right that they're 3 provinces away?
I believe they live in Winnipeg. Yes. Yeah. Far corner.
Yeah, do we know if the folks behind this have got other businesses in our area? Do they have other local interests that we should be aware of?
Not aware. Yeah. And again, I want to point out that our fight is as much with the regulatory authorities, Ministry of Mines, as with the owners. In the front row.
Hi. So we're not getting anywhere with the ministry. Is there, who can you go past them? Like the Premier, is there anybody above them that they're oversee part, or, like, I don't know that process, but someone mentioned that the Premier would probably be, you know, I know he's NDP and I'm not political in any way, but like, this is really important. Our community, this Garnet Valley is important, so we shouldn't consider NDP conservative, but is that the next step, or who's above that?
Politicians are always have their antenna out for opposition to something, and to the temperament of the public on an issue like this. Yes, I would say, but there is an election coming, and so we don't really know who the Premier will be a month from now. In the far back.
Okay. Do you know dates, like timeline of next steps, dates, stakeholders are getting together,
you mentioned that there's going to be an assessment by the Ministry of Mines. Do you know when and how are you guys going to be communicating?
We don't believe there is going to be any further assessment by Ministry of Energy, Mines, and I think Low Carbon Initiative, something like that. They've done their assessment, and they've basically told us it's a done deal.
But like for the next, so from now going forward, so they've approved it, they've permitted it. Now what happens next for them? And what should we be kind of like anticipating going forward with this?
We have asked for a legal opinion on a lot of this stuff, which we should have something by the end of next week. So those are some of the questions that are being asked.
And maybe that GoFundMe, can that be maybe like the channel for us to get updates perhaps, like about what's happening for this?
What we're going to do on the Garnet Valley Agritourism website is have updates for people. So it's garnet-valley.com. And you'll be able to track what's going on with all the information that we're able to gather and the ideas that we're going to put together and the paths we want to go on. So, John.
One more question. I heard that an environmental site assessment or environmental impact assessment will be required.
It sounds like it.
Okay, and so that, you don't know what state that's in or what stage of development, but it will have to be reviewed.
Question I can't answer at this point.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
When you have
permit applications, I assume they've already done that. There's also a threshold. There's a threshold for what becomes a major mine, and this is not that. This is that they applied for 30,000, less than 30,000 cubes, which puts them under the threshold, which means they are not required to do a full environmental assessment.
They're not required?
No, it's not fully. There is an environmental assessment portion, but it's much smaller and not as detailed. So, you know, my recommendation is that people continue to push for the environmental assessment office to look into it, and that there are major concerns that may have been overlooked. And typically, I mean, Emily do a great job, and I'm bad for it. But here they seem to have missed the bus completely. They've overlooked it. The timing was obviously odd. The fact that it went in just before Christmas, and they did the consultation process in almost a sneaky way. This is small for them. It's 30,000 cubes. You know, we're talking about hundreds of millions of cubes moving. That's the stuff that they're looking at. This for them was small, and I think they may have overlooked the impact. I also see it from a financial perspective. You know, 30,000 cubes, you're making $10 a cube, so it's $300,000 a year. You know, and the impact that you're going to have is so, you know, just look around, it's millions and millions. So you know, they've overlooked what's the negative impact versus the gain that they're going to get, you know, from so many perspectives. So you know, there's been a slip up, and the gentleman in the back there earlier said, you know, your best course of action is first start with the ombudsman, because there's a mistake. You know you've made a mistake. Can we get this, you know, re-looked and reviewed and fix it? And I think if you approach it, I think, you know, most people are defensive, right? So if you say you've done wrong, you screwed up, they'll be defensive and want to defend their position. But if we go positively and say, look, we think you missed something, and try and pull them forward and say, can we review this process and start it again? I think you may be successful there. What somebody said about the rights, indigenous rights, absolutely. You know, but then you're going to be starting legal action to get that process forward. So I also think it's smart to have contingency plans. So the what is, you know, you should be starting with talking to the owner and saying, look, the impact to us is millions. You're going to maybe get a few $100,000 a year. We're going to be coming after you, you know, to protect our interests. Are you aware of that? So, and you know, have many layers of those sorts of approaches so that you have contingency. So, yeah, I just on the environmental assessment piece, it's probably a small environmental assessment compared to what most people are used to doing for the larger mines.
So, Scott here is a website genius, I think.
Designated now.
We do have a website that Steve mentioned. So one way is to go to that website, and you can somehow, Scott's going to figure out a way that we can all get aligned there. I think it might not be a bad idea before we leave, if we can go back to the days of the horse and buggy and a piece of paper and a pen, and we can write down our names and email addresses, phone numbers, so that we can compile a list of people that are here, and then we can coordinate that. And then following that, we probably would put out a request for committee members if there's different things we need to coordinate, if it's standing on a road with a sign, or if it's gonna be, you know, coordinating a meeting with some lawyers, or whatever it's gonna be. We're gonna need different committee groups. So this is a great turnout. We need to use this as momentum, and we gotta try to stay connected after this. So we can take a minute to either go to that website, and then also we should probably try to just get a pen and paper going here. I don't know who's prepared. Anybody have a pen and paper? Somebody does.
I do.
Okay.
Can we not just put our contact information on the website and say, I was at the meeting?
Yeah, we have, what we have on the Garnet Valley Agritourism website is a way of contacting us. So all you have to do is send us an email. Hit the email button, we'll get your email address. If you have any questions, you want to make any comments, they end up coming to me, and I spread them out as needed. So we will be able to get your email address that way quite easily.